What's your favorite scary movie?
Be like, I'm dying.
If some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, they guys, I'm like, it's over and done. We're married now."
Someone in the movie, so I'm like, kiss. But
Oh God, what a sea of humanity.
There he is. The Sea of Humanity himself. Welcome in. Hi. Welcome everybody to a bonus episode of 52/1994, the live movie conversation podcast where we discuss movies from the year 1994. I am your host, Cody, and I'm joined by my co-host on this special occasion, Rise Stallone himself. Ryan, welcome back.
What's up?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
If this is your first time joining us, we typically don't do it this way, but we once a month I will have, we'll watch like 4 or 5 movies kind of from a category, and we'll talk about them all at once, and if we liked them, if we didn't like them, but they're not good enough to make the 52 list, so we expand a little bit. But yeah, so we want to give them their due anyway. And this month we're talking about Trash Action Heroes or Last Action Zeros or whatever you want to call it. Basically just a bunch of action movies this year that didn't quite live up to expectations. Typically these are just terrible movies. So
These are
right?
really bad.
These were bad.
These are really bad, Cody. I watched all 5 of these movies. And it's a pretty good like a movie nerd challenge to like how fast can you name 4 movies that are worse than In the Army Now?
I love trouble. The Specialist.
Yeah. I was like, I could do that in all 1994. Yeah, that's how good I am.
Yeah. This is okay. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be vulnerable with you. I used to praise 1994 as like the year.
I'm gonna be honest. I remember you saying that many times, and we had conversations about it, and you were convincing, and like, oh yeah, there's some great movies there. But I think when you first released the spreadsheet for this year, and I looked at it, and I was like, okay, I don't know, 1994 is that great. But that's it. I mean, 1994, you were what? You were 7 years old, 8 years old.
Yeah.
Every movie was awesome.
It's true. And I say that about some of these too that we watched. Like I think obviously Pauly Shore was a huge like big deal for me in my childhood and everything. But like Blank Man would have been a huge hit for me.
Yeah, I think I saw it in like on TV in high school, but I had seen that. That's the only one other than In the Army Now I'd seen before. In the Army Now, I watched a lot as a kid, like repeat watched, loved it, loved that movie. I liked rewatching it, but I'm pretty sure that was mostly nostalgia.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's just that Pauly Shore universe, and you get your Brendan Frasers in there, your stupid jokes that he weasels stuff. I don't know. Pauly Shore.
Brendan Fraser was in there for a second, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm. He does.
He looked at my phone and I looked up and said, "Who was that? Why is he there? Are they friends or something?"
Yeah. So he just appeared. I think they're friends. And he ends up just appearing in
Encino Man, right? Well, that's a huge.
Yeah. So like Encino Man, that's when they first get together, and then in I think 1993, Son-in-Law.
I don't know Son-in-Law that well. A lot of people love it.
Brendan Fraser appears in the background as his character from Encino Man. And then he shows up again in this movie. I don't know if he was in any of his other ones, but he's not in Biodome because I've watched Biodome recently.
Well, that was the other Pauly Shore movie I loved from my childhood, and I think Biodome was better than this, but I don't know why I liked In the Army Now so much.
Yeah, but as a confession, and going through 1994 movies after claiming that, I'm really afraid we're in for a dud of a year.
The whole year? We got 6 months left.
I know we've got 6 months left, and I know there are some good movies that we're gonna watch, but like, I don't know. I felt like 93 had it.
93 was pretty good. Last year when you did this podcast, you didn't do the bonus episodes.
Right.
And I think a lot of the bloat has come through the bonus episodes. Also, like for scheduling and time and everything, we canceled the animal bonus episodes. And man, even as a kid, I was like, stop giving me animal movies. I don't want it. I did not want to rewatch Andre. I didn't want to rewatch Monkey Trouble. That stuff was rough. Yeah. The animated bonus ep, like what Page Master was the big hit on that bonus episode.
Yeah.
And I mean, sure, we have like Lion King this year, right? That's huge. But Page Master is the best of those 5. Is not a good look.
No. And yeah, I'm doing some of these bonus episodes to cover maybe like one movie out of the 5 that I actually liked. So like In the Army Now was the one that I was like, yeah, I have nostalgia for this movie.
Yeah. And to be clear, I don't mind it. I don't mind watching the mid movies from '94 or the bad movies from '94. I think it's the
ones that I have picked for the 52 list have not really impressed me. It's been very mid. Like
yeah. I'm trying to remember now. I think there might have been a few gems in there. North was made me so happy. Remember we talked about that.
I love North.
I love North. So I never would have seen that movie if it wasn't for the 52 / bonus eps.
Yeah, and we let me see here. Like I'm just looking at we do have some good ones, and like I started off with like Jim Carrey, and we already did all the Oscar movies for the year, but we've still got some good stuff.
Oh yeah, Blank Check and Richie Rich, and the first sports one. First bonus of the year. I mean that was all of my sports movies as a kid, all in one. So that's huge.
Yeah. When was Homeward Bound? Homeward Bound was 93. We watched that last year. I think that was the second one we did last year was that one. But I look at a few of these other ones. One that we're going to talk about on Sunday, The River Wild. This is like action era stuff. I think we've got some like middle of the road dramas coming up that I think could be really good and fun. But yeah,
I'm excited about mine. Coming up, but you got True Lies in a couple weeks. That's pretty legendary. And you started the month with Speed, so those are two legendary action films.
Yeah, and I actually really did enjoy Clear and Present Danger more than I thought.
I did too. Yeah, it's hard. Action in '94. I don't know. We talk about comedy aging poorly, but action kind of aged poorly, especially bridging the eras of practical effects and blow 'em ups. And to hyper realistic like violence and CGI and like choreographed gunplay that came back, after 2000. So it kind of makes a lot of old action seem really silly in retrospect.
Yeah. And like some of these movies, and one of these movies that we brought, The Specialist, we'll talk about it a little bit, but like I'm pretty sure it did good. It did well. It was 20th in the year of 1993. Like
that's wild. I never heard of it
overall, and it looks terrible. Like there are some set pieces in this that I was just like, that ain't it. But let me do. I did a special thing, so I'll tell you all the movies that we did. But I also picked, or I went into ChatGPT and I got taglines for these movies. So
that's hilarious, yeah.
For I Love Trouble, starring Julia Roberts and Nick Nolte, these two have less chemistry than Nicolas Cage and Subtlety.
Wow, ChatGPT is trolling out here.
The Specialist, a movie about a hitman named Ray Quick, which this movie was anything but.
Wow, that's a book.
The other ones I went ahead and wrote my own taglines for, but those were the ones that I was like, these are too good. I gotta awesome. Leave these in. Low Down Dirty Shame and Blank Man are both Wayans brothers movies. Different Wayans brothers. We've got Keenan Ivory in one, but I mentioned Harris Whittles once said, where there's a will, there's a Wayans, and unfortunately they made these movies.
There's a will, there's a Wayans. I remember that joke.
And then In the Army Now, the only army propaganda that convinced the generation to join up in hopes of being KIA.
Yeah. I don't have any trivia for these movies because I didn't do any research. I only half watched them, but I did spend a good 30 seconds being like, Chad Libya, is that a thing? And that was a thing. Like
that was a thing.
Libya lost like a tenth of its army, like 8,000 people fighting northern Chad, and I was like, oh, weird. As a kid, I had no, in my memory, I just assumed it was like Desert Storm or
that's exactly how I took
it. But it actually was like referencing a real conflict, which seemed pretty lofty to even do. You would expect like a Pauly Shore movie to just make up like, you know, a Weasel Stand or something and like go invade that place.
So I'll go through the ratings too of these. So our top rated one is I Love Trouble at 22%. And it was number 44 on the list of like the box office list that year. Next was Blank Man and In the Army Now tying at 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. Blank Man 118th on the list of box office. In the Army Now 49th. The Specialist came in at a whopping 10%. I'm glad that you made me watch that one before I watched Low Down Dirty Shame. It was 20th on the list. We already talked about that. And then a Low Down Dirty Shame coming in at 4%.
I saw 4%. Ooh.
It's
bad. I recognized that title, and I was like, oh, yeah, this probably have something cool going on.
It was not what I expected at all.
Also, like, it's so funny watching Jada. I've seen Jada Pinkett do, like, great acting, right? Or good acting at least, and measured stuff. But seeing her like being a young woman, this has to be like when Will Smith met her, and she's so unhinged on screen. I'm like, and then now knowing everything I know about them as a couple, I'm like, oh, you did respond to her energy. She has like Scientology in a different world energy.
And I think like this, I was thinking about this as I was finishing. I finished up minutes before we even started this. I was thinking about this. She's still Jada Pinkett. There's no Will Smith yet. We're 1994. He's doing Fresh Prince. She's probably going to guest star on Fresh Prince at some point soon. I don't know if they've been touched by Scientology at this point.
Yeah, and you know, like, I don't know the history of that because all of my deep dives in Scientology actually like kind of end before the Will Smith era. You know, all the great stories don't really involve the Smiths until just the fact that they are, you know.
Yeah, and I've never heard that they're like they never talk about it. They never come out. They're definitely in though, right?
Yeah, I think it's well, you know, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't, you know, talk shit on the internet that I don't know about. It was my understanding that it is hard confirmed that they are dedicated Scientologist, but and then the wild shit that comes out of their mouths and kids' mouths, like just feel like the way like pampered celebrities who also are backed up by a mystical religion talk.
Yeah, they're definitely in. They're just better about it on their PR side than
I think so
than Tom is. But yeah, but I was thinking about that as I was watching this, and because I love Jada Pinkett was the only good thing in that movie to me.
Yeah, I agree. She was really fun to watch, but there was something that wasn't acting that was like, oh, you're a little crazy.
Yeah,
you're a little crazy person, and I don't know. I don't want to like stumble into like some mean like female stereotypes, but like it's like Will Smith meets somebody new, and he's like, oh, she's so fascinating, but then all his friends are like, I don't think interesting and crazy are the same, Will. Like, you mean unhinged? Is that what's so quirky about her? Like, there's some quality there.
So it's fresh on my mind. Let's jump into Low Down Dirty Shame. I've got the synopsis here. So it says, after hitting a wall in his case against drug kingpin Ernesto Mendoza, Private Eye and Andre Shame, that's his last name, quits the police department in disgrace. The wisecracking investigator thinks he's left his old life behind him, but now everything changes when an old chum from the force informs him of a break in the case. With the help of his motor-mouthed secretary, Peaches, Andre leaps back into action to solve the case and clear his name.
Yeah, this movie, I think what makes it so bad is it wants to be everything. It doesn't make a full choice in any direction. Like, hey, if you want to go blaxploitation in the 90s, do that. If you want to go a noir with a black lead, that sounds cool. Do that. If you want to do slapstick action, do that. But if you want to do real 90s gritty action, do that. But it just does 10% of all of those things.
Yes.
And none of them.
Yes, that is exactly what I was writing up something. I was like, is this a parody? Is this like you trying to establish a new Shaft, blaxploitation kind of thing? Are you trying to take this seriously? Are you trying to do a buddy cop comedy movie? Because you're not succeeding at any one of these things at all. So,
yeah, it was. In fact, I mean, I watched it this morning and at like 5 a.m.
Nothing better.
That's when I decided I couldn't get back to sleep. Yeah, and I know I wasn't paying full attention to a lot of these movies, but I'm trying to remember anything memorable other than Shame and Peaches being wild. And the frenemy character I liked a lot, but he yelled a lot. He yelled all the time.
The chief.
Yeah, he kind of betrayed him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Charles Dutton's character. Yeah.
That's Charles Dutton. Okay, yeah.
Did you remember the weird scene where she's like, "Remember when you first met me, Shame? I was 16."
Nope, I missed that.
You missed that scene? Because that was fucking wild.
Really?
Yeah, because she was like, I'm 16, but I'm 23 now. I'm all grown up.
Yeah, I do remember. So I was confused because at the end of the movie, a romance has bloomed between Shame and Peaches.
Yes.
And at the beginning of the movie, it's really coded as like, that's my kid's sister. I like adult women, and there's no way. But then there was also, from the way they both look, it was hard to tell what their ages are supposed to be. The way they both look and act, and even like dressed. Like Peaches acted immature and maybe dressed a little younger, but I could also believe that Jada Pinkett was, well, I guess she was 23. I could also believe that he was 27, or that this movie didn't care about the difference between a 23-year-old and a 30-year-old. So it was like hard to like, it just wasn't consistent about like what that was. But it was consistent for the longest time with like, all right, Peaches, calm down. Like he's very like, not condescending, but he's very like older brother to her.
Yeah.
And like, rolls his eyes like, come on, you got to do what I tell you, that, you're doing this now or whatever. And then, so when it took the actual switch into them getting together, I was surprised and weirded out by it. Plus, the other woman, I guess, like turns really bad, and so he can't be with her. But I thought that she was going to be like a Catwoman, like a frenemy, bad, and a little good. But at the end, they go off together, and Peaches is just making jokes in the background. But she goes full bad, I guess, and then dies.
No, she doesn't. Wait, does she die?
No, she kills the bad guy, and it was like, she's like, "Do you want to fuck one last time?" And then he's like, "No." And then some. I don't remember what happened. And somehow she gets the flip on him and shoots him in the face and goes, "Too bad, you could have had pussy."
Yes, she takes the gun out of her bra after she's taken her shirt off, and yes, says the line, "You could have had pussy."
So if he had said yes, then they were gonna fuck, and then she wasn't gonna kill him, or she was just gonna kill him afterwards.
I don't know. I mean,
that's the low down dirty shame of this movie.
No, whenever Jada Pinkett and him have that scene where she's talking about being 16 and he catches her stuffing CDs into her underwear. There are two times in that scene where they focus on her ass.
Oh yeah.
And Keenen Ivory Wayans is the director of this film too. And there's one where it's just awful, like totally out of nowhere. We're just focusing on her ass. And then the second time she's going up the stairs, he's like, "I did notice something grew since you've been 16." And I was like, not good. The internet's a wild place right now.
It's funny like watching old stuff and how dated some of those kind of comments and stuff are. And I don't love them, but if I'm watching them alone, I'm just like, yeah. I remember this is what used to happen in movies. But then at some point, like my partner wakes up and she comes out and watches the second half of the movie, and then those comments happen, and I'm like, woof. Like it feels really weird when there's somebody else in the room, like watching like some of the second half of In the Army Now, and I was like, yeah, I liked it as a kid. I didn't know what that meant. That's not cool. Like.
There's
I think we call a trans person a thing in the second half of In the Army Now. That was a little rough. Yeah.
I saw something about that recently. Somebody calling a trans person a thing, and but then we have all the like homophobic stuff in a Low Down Dirty Shame, where we have Shame waking up in a man's bed, her Peach's roommate who is gay,
right,
and then he says a line about like the crying game. I don't want to wake up and all of a sudden I'm in the crying game or something like that.
Right.
And then he fakes being gay later in the movie.
Like older movies also had that, like, which we wouldn't do that anymore. Like there was this weird like comic acceptance. I mean, Eddie Murphy was doing that in Beverly Hills Cop, or right?
Well, they were still doing that. I think of all this humor that I see from Keenen Ivory Wayans, and his two sons are the ones that make the Scary Movie franchise, and the ones that go on to do all those things. Like, and that humor's still there. So
It still is, and it's not always like mean spirited. Like when he's like trolling like her gay friend and like breaks them up, and he's doing like an impression of a gay guy or whatever. Like it's certainly not like acceptable by today's standards. But the point of the movie, I don't think, is to be like, aren't these people disgusting and bad?
Right.
Which is like nowadays, like people would either have to like really dehumanize like a gay person or like really put him on a pedestal. Where there's this weird not evolved era in the 80s and 90s where like you could just cartoonify them and then be cool with them too and not be threatened. You know, I don't know. It's so weird.
It's very, I mean, Beverly Hills Cop does the same thing, I think, with like Bronson Pinchot's character. Like he's a main person in those movies.
And they're like sassy stereotypes, but they get their moments too. Like they have their dignity and they get to like, you know, talk shit and like, you know, get some good burns on like, you know, the straight main character or whatever. It's very weird.
This is the only movie that Waymond, that character, ever appeared in. So
we don't know the deeper lore about Waymond.
We don't know any more about Waymond.
Well, and then like the real offensive gay thing in these 5 movies is that like, and I remember that scene, and I remember the line, "Is it hot and Chad?" Because all Andy Dick and Pauly Shore have to do is kiss, and they don't have to go to a war zone in a desert, and they couldn't, and that just made sense to an audience. Like that's wild.
All about that.
He didn't even ask for them to like open mouth kiss. Like they didn't have to fuck or anything. It was, and he just tried so hard to kiss Andy Dick once briefly, and he goes, "I guess I'll go to war. Can't do that. Don't have it in me. Not in my genes."
Happy Pride,
everybody. Take care of your neighbors.
Is it hot and Chad? I love In the Army Now. I still stand for that movie. It's great.
There's a couple moments I forgot about that made me laugh really hard. The one, I think maybe the best joke in the movie is when they're racistly negotiating for camels. And then Andy Dick doesn't want to give up his watch. And he goes, no, it's got like these numbers on it. It's got a compass in it. And Pauly Shore gets to be the straight man for one time in the movie. He goes, "You're saying we were lost in the desert for 3 days and your watch had a compass in it?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot."
I used to do that impression of Pauly Shore when he's talking about how some Middle Eastern guy's gonna take his skull and use it as an ashtray, and he's like, he's just making weird noises. I used to do that all the time when I was a kid.
There's no clever comedy in there, but there's just little moments like when he tells the guy to shut up twice. I lost it. There's nothing funnier than he's like, "Shut up, I'm doing something." If you tell me to shut up again,
that's way funnier than him calling him like whatever, Miss Sassy Pants or whatever he calls.
Yeah, like that's not clever. Just telling an army guy to shut up with no fear is hilarious.
I wrote down a few things from that. The Rescue Me scene where they're trying to get out of the prison and they're all singing "Rescue Me."
Oh yeah,
out loud. That's very memorable to me. Andy Dick's ass being out.
Yeah.
I did like that joke, and I still think I like that joke, is when he's going out, Andy Dick is running, he sees a mirage or whatever, and he just strips down to nothing, and Pauly Shore just says, "Jag, you got to get a tan on that ass," or something like that.
Right.
That's the funniest thing in the
world. Speaking of very problematic people, like Andy Dick is a monstrous imp of a human being, but I will never not like him on screen. And even if some of his unhinged behavior, not all, but some of his unhinged behavior, I'm like, yeah, like, you know, go ahead and grind on Musclemen in strip clubs and get your ass kicked. That's hilarious.
I just watched Community not too long ago, and him playing Pierce's pill-induced hallucination.
That's right, yeah.
It's pretty great.
And this is the 90s when Andy Dick, I mean, he had a lot going on. He was in a lot of movies. He was in News Radio. He came up with the Ben Stiller show and the other one. No, he wasn't on Mr. Show.
He wasn't on Kids in the Hall, right?
No. But he was everywhere for a while in kids movies sometimes. Yeah, he showed up on
Ben Stiller show, Less Than Perfect, and he had the Andy Dick show in early 2001.
Yeah, he had the Andy Dick show. Yeah, but he was doing drugs really bad. Famously, partially responsible, at least, for getting Phil Hartman shot by his wife, which was a tragedy. Yeah.
Jesus. Oh, I forget about it, and then you bring it up, and then I remember. I'm just like, oh, Fuck you, Andy Dick.
Yeah, he has severe mental health problems and addiction problems that have caused him to be a bad person a lot. But man, I do miss seeing him on screen, and even here, he's kind of the straight man, and he kills it. He's a good actor. Like he's, like he's like Dana Carvey's Garth here, in a worse movie, but like is kind of better at like doing that kind of shit. So it was nice to see him in a healthy young state.
Yeah, I love David Allen Greer in this too.
Yeah, 2 Dags this week.
Blank Man.
Yeah, that was one of my only thoughts was like, man, I miss Dag. We didn't love him enough. I'm not that he's dead, I don't think, but like...
Also dates Lori Petty during this time.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What a cool couple.
Yes, awesome couple. Lori Petty, though. Let's talk about Lori Petty.
I love Lori Petty.
I love Lori Petty.
Yeah.
And I'll fight anybody about that.
Yeah, I miss actors that kind of like she's uniquely herself and brings that to every role. Her voice, the sound of her voice, the rhythms of the way she talks, her physicality is also Lori Petty. That it's welcome in every movie because it's not as it's not as normie, it's not as obvious, it's not as scripted and directed as a lot of other acting is. So yeah, I love her. And then she's had a weird career, but the big thing that always comes to mind is A League of Their Own, where I've seen her do a lot of silly comedy stuff like this, but in League of Their Own, she does really good drama. Her and Gina Davis fighting on screen is pretty epic.
She has a pretty great career starting in 90. She does Cadillac Man with Robin Williams, Point Break. It's a huge movie. Then goes into League of Their Own. Free Willy last year. She also makes a cameo in Poetic Justice in 93 as well. In the Army Now. Tank Girl in 95 is one that
wait, was this in the Army Now, like the elevator pitch for like Tank Girl?
I think so. I think they were like, okay, Lori Petty, you can do in Tank Girl. But then you she doesn't show up in any like big things. So either Pauly Shore ruined her career or
she did disappear. I think she does some stuff every now and then.
Man, what a great 5 years in the 90s. No, I loved Lori Petty, and anytime she shows up in anything, I love when she shows up in something now. I think she was not in a lot of stuff, and then Orange Is the New Black came calling, and
that's right. I was like, what was she doing 10 years ago that was popular?
Yeah, Orange Is the New Black, definitely.
I'll say like there are some funny bits, but all of the dumb, uncreative bits, like having David Allen Greer, Andy Dick, Pauly Shore, and Lori Petty in the desert really carries a lot of like shitty comedy. Like they're all so unique, and they really act well together. And so,
I was going to say,
being on his back and all that stuff, like the facial expressions, the line deliveries are so unique across all 4 of them that, like, yeah, I want to give them another try. Like I want In the Army Now too with a better script, because I think they could really crush some comedy if they had the script behind them.
And I wonder, I would be curious how well they got along. Again, this is like kind of before Andy Dick turns into the monster that he becomes. I wonder if they did get along really well, because that's what I was going to say, and you already said it again. But like their chemistry is what makes it. We are in the desert, and those 4 acting together is fantastic. Like they're great. So
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, adults hated this movie. I mean, if it wasn't nostalgia, we wouldn't be able to like defend it this hard.
I don't think my sister really introduced me to Pauly Shore. This was kind of her generation, and Pauly Shore was doing MTV Spring Break and all that stuff at the time. So he was huge. She saw him at a club, a comedy club, and said he was the worst stand-up that she'd ever seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, his lore is interesting too. He's Mitzi Shore's son. You know Mitzi Shore?
Who is it?
Mitzi Shore. Mitzi Shore is a legendary, also a really like badass legendary woman in the comedy scene for decades, because she ran I forget which very famous club in LA. Is it the Comedy Store? But it's the one
Comedy Store, yeah.
Yeah. She like ran that club for decades. And she was the one that you had to like, people have stories about like talking to Lorne Michaels and their audition and getting on SNL. Like stand-up comedians have stories for decades about like Mitzi calling them over to the table, being really gruff and kind of rude about their act, but saying, hey, you come back, you do 2 minutes, you get a few more laughs, I'll give you 15 minutes, like that kind of thing. And she would really crafted comedy for decades by deciding who would be on that stage, and then by calling The Tonight Show and Johnny Carson and saying, all right, I got somebody for you. I think this kid's ready. made a lot of careers. Pauly Shore is her son and spent his whole childhood running around the Comedy Store watching comedy legends. So he's like a spoiled little Nepo baby, but he was also born in a comedy club, like, as a little kid hanging around Sam Kinison and Robin Williams and stuff like that.
I did not know any of that. You just kind of blew me away. I know that I did know because of Pauly Shore being on Drew Barrymore's talk show this year that like their families were really good friends. And like I think Mitzi used to like babysit Drew.
Okay.
And so her and Pauly Shore were like best friends growing up, which I thought was kind of funny and unique. And brought him back into my life for some reason in 2024. But
yeah, I don't know. I guess we could have done without Pauly Shore, but I have fond memories. I don't know.
I love him.
He's just a cartoon. He's not the best comedian ever or whatever, but he deserved his moment.
And he was always kind of surprisingly good in those straight man moments when he wasn't acting like a fucking insane person. Like Son-in-Law, he has his moments. I mean, every single one of these movies, he builds it up, and then he has a moment in those movies where he is the straight man or he's serious, and he nails it.
When he delivers a real comedic line, he's good at it. But you're right. I think coming up that way, being a young person around a lot of drinking and drugs in the 90s, he was just being a cool kid who happened to be pretty funny and had connections, and then probably got famous off the MTV thing being the overtop personality, and then that's who people wanted to buy. And then, because there are little moments when he just when he says very like, I saw that like maybe it was Ebert or A.O. Scott or somebody who was like, oh, they were just mad that they're trying to rip off Stripes and Stripes is way better. But there are little moments, straight man moments, that he's very Bill Murray, where he goes, thank you for explaining that to me. Like, he's just kind of like trolls everybody in the army, like by refusing to be intimidated or scared, and then saying things that aren't necessarily insults, but are just so dumb that they are insulting. He kind of kills some of those lines. I think he's great. Yeah.
I'm glad. Okay. I'm glad. I remember Ryan and I have a story about like going to a cabin in the woods, and we chose to watch Son-in-Law because I brought it along, and he was like, cool. I'm glad that we went to this cabin to watch a Pauly Shore movie, which is a very funny thing.
It was just more about, I remember being like, I thought we were going to hang out and make jokes, smoke cigarettes and play games and build fires and drink a lot. And instead, we're going to crowd around like a 10-inch Magnavision and watch a VHS of Son-in-Law. And I was like, this is what we're doing, guys? I mean, I could have stayed home. Like,
it sticks out to me, and I'll never forget it because I think it's hilarious.
I did have fun that weekend. That was just a moment when I was like, I don't know that I want to fight for a spot on that carpet right now. I guess I'll go do something else.
Okay, so we've got, what have we not talked about? The Specialist, and we've not talked about Blank Man, and we've not talked about I Love Trouble.
Well, you didn't watch I Love Trouble, right?
I saw it when I was a kid.
Oh, really? I had never heard of this.
And because when I was a child, my mom worked at a company called Airborne Express. It was kind of like a DHL, UPS, FedEx, all those kinds of things. And they would ship big packages of freight and everything. They weren't like local stuff. But anyway, some of those things would break, or things would get damaged, and any of the damaged material would get sold in a store from that company.
I've heard of that store. Yeah.
So we would go to that store. It was one of my favorite things to do. I got a lot, but that's where I got a lot of my VHSs when I was a kid, and they were all demo tapes for like movie rental stores to be like, hey, if you like this movie, you can order 10 more or however many copies, just called it. And there was like a scroll thing at the bottom. So I Love Trouble was one of these. I had a ton of Disney movies like this, Huck Finn, Far and Away, like all these random 90s movies that were incredible. Yeah, I Love Trouble was one of those. So I remember watching that as a kid, and loving Julia Roberts a lot. My dad loved Pretty Woman, and I remember watching that and Steel Magnolias and just being really, really in love with Julia Roberts.
Was Pretty Woman last year?
No, Pretty Woman was like 91, I want to say.
Is that early? Yeah. It is like Julia Roberts being a little more, a little less sweethearty, a little less feminine, I guess, which was kind of interesting too. Yeah, she's great. Nick Nolte's great too. That movie's bad. It's really bad.
That's the one I know the least about because it's been 30 years since I've seen that movie.
I mean, and the plot is basically like he's a journalist who's given up and is cynical and is now trying to cash in on cheap novels. But he's doing it in his sleep, and he's still a big deal. And then she's a young journalist who's like really hungry and wants to like cut her teeth on shit. They become rivals. And then as they become rivals, they begrudgingly work together and then they fall in love and get married. While they're uncovering the conspiracy, the big conspiracy of it, it's kind of like it's like the prequel of Aaron Brockovich as they find out somebody's poisoning milk. It's all about poison.
Yes,
yeah.
I just read that in the plot. Conspiracy involving genetically altered milk.
Because it's not really about that either. It's trying to be a romance. I was confused. It was the first one I watched, and I was like, "This isn't really an action film," but it does have action sequences.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the movie goes on, there's more of them. I think the chemistry's there. It's a dumb old movie.
They hated each other.
Did they really?
Yes, they hated. She called him disgusting, and said that. And Nolte said that she's not a nice person.
Well, I'll tell you the one line that made me laugh out loud early on when the two characters first meet, and he's kind of trolling her, like, "Oh, I guess you're new to this job, huh?" Like, and she's like, "No, I've done this and this and this," and she's like, "I guess you've given up because you didn't find out this about the story," and they're kind of trolling each other back and forth. And at the end of the conversation, he just looks at her and goes, "Where'd you say you were from again? Bitchville?"
I like that.
That was out of nowhere, and I lost my mind.
Bitchville, and it's in a gruff voice. Bitchville.
Where'd you say you're from again? Bitchville.
Nick Nolte's got that just smoker's voice that's only gotten way.
And I also grew up mostly with unhinged Nolte, so it was weird to see him still kind of together. And I kind of like, I get why women found him attractive at some point. Like,
he was the sexiest man of the year one year for People magazine.
That's crazy.
What was he? Prince of Tides? Is that?
Oh yeah, Barbra Streisand.
Yeah,
the Pat Conroy novel.
I'm pretty sure that's Nolte.
Yeah, it is.
He was a sex symbol. Yeah, weird. I don't know. I never understood that one. And now he's gone like full on. Like he looks like Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I remember growing up with him and Gary Busey like being like indistinguishably maniacs. Like the same maniac person.
But I've heard 48 Hours is great. I've never seen 48 Hours.
I don't know that I have either. But yeah, that's all I got in I Love Trouble. It was just weird tonally. You asked me like, hey, of these three movies I haven't seen yet, which would I have to? And I gave The Specialist over Low Down Dirty Shame because I didn't think that was very good. And I was like, I Love Trouble is definitely the last on the list. It's such a nothing burger.
Yeah, and funny enough, it's the one that gets the highest rating out of these five.
I do think people just liked it. Like I could understand like couples going to a movie and having just enough action, just enough Nolte being like a gruff, like kind of pig of a man that men liked it, and Julia Roberts being like dreamy but also like a 90s business, minded woman or whatever. So there was like love and explosions and all that. So I completely get it being kind of the most successful, but I do think it's the worst movie on this list.
Yeah. The Specialist, though, was a very special movie. They do say that they say specialist so many times in this movie. He's a specialist. You're a specialist. Come on, you're better than this. Like Sharon Stone's she's.
So watching this with my girlfriend, two things. One, back when you used to be my girlfriend, I would do this with you a lot. I would like drunkenly like plot summarize. I would drunk history movies to you. So I'd watched half of this, and then we got home from a birthday party, kind of drunk, and then I was like, "You don't have to watch the second half of this movie." She's like, "I will," and then I paused it, and I was like, "Look." So there's like these two Splosy guys, right? And like all they do is Splosies. And I just like gave her the first half of the movie drunkenly. I was like, there was a kid and a bus. Sly tried to save him, but he couldn't save him or whatever. And I just went through the whole thing, and it did sound absurd, as I was saying. She was like, yeah. And then the only other time I paused it was to go on a somewhat drunken rant. I'm like, I get it. Sharon Stone's hot, I guess. But she was like 90s hot in a way that I saw a million versions of. And so it never did anything for me. And she's not that great of an actor to me. I don't mean to be mean to her. Good she got her career, get her money. But like, I don't get the deal with Sharon Stone.
I think she was the hottest. So like what we're talking about, I agree with you. Like 90s hot, we've seen it, like the nudity and everything, but like I think because of Total Recall, because of Basic Instinct, she is it. Like she is the hottest person in the 90s.
I mean, showing her vagina and Basic Instinct is like a legendary movie moment. So she's got to like ride on that like clout for a minute, right? Like compared to like other like kind of like heroin chic model actresses who are like competing for roles in like AAA movies and stuff like that. She is the it girl for a minute. Which is fine. It's just when I see her pop up in an old movie, I'm like, why are you here? I don't know that I like you as an actor, and you know, you're not doing anything for me.
And it was so confusing. This plot of this movie was so confusing to me because you get these two guys that work for the CIA, and the whole thing that you just described about the explosion on the bridge and the girl dying was collateral damage, and he tried to save her. Stallone's tried to save her, and James Woods is just like, whatever. Like, he got him kicked out of the CIA for that, and then he ends up working for a drug lord, but then is also like friendly with the police. Because he has like all the access to the, like everybody on the police force.
Well, I do think I got this from a synopsis, not from paying attention, but like, so Sly gets him kicked out of the CIA, and then he resigns in disgust, you know, at what happened. And so Denny's like just like a little hitman. He just does jobs. But the bad guy, James Woods, their names are like Ned and Max, or what are their names?
Ray Quick is Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah, that's right.
Sharon Stone plays Mae Monroe.
Cool.
That's one of her names. Tom Leon, played by Rod Steiger, and his son Eric Roberts. Another Julia Roberts' brother. And Ned is James.
Ned is the bad guy.
Ned,
one of them. Side note too, she does mention when her parents died, or she's like confronting the guy. It was like, do you remember like so and so and Alice Munro? And I was like, oh, they're referencing that awesome Pulitzer Prize winning author who recently died. And then I was like, wait a second, no, they're not. That's a coincidence.
But it's spelled the exact same way.
It's spelled the same, which is unique enough that I'm like, oh, we have an Alice Munro fan in the background of the specials. Anyway, but I think it was said at one point that Ned goes and works for the cartel, and then the cartel pulls strings to implant him in the police.
Yeah, and then Ned also hires May, who wants to kill the cartel so that she can draw out Ray Quick.
Yeah, I thought she joined because I think one of his rule when he finally joined up was like, you can't get involved in this. And she's like, no, I need to see all these people die, and gets involved. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe like, but at some point I imagine Ned understands that they're connected and is like, they're using each other.
Also, Ray has no idea. He's been stalking her, like getting to know her and know the situation, everything like that. He only talks to her on the phone. She's never seen this man before. And then like they finally meet up probably about an hour into the movie and just bang, like right away.
Yeah.
And
I mean, did you see her?
I mean, Sylvester Stallone's ass, I think I've seen more than Sharon Stone's boobs.
Yeah, true.
He loves to show his butt.
Yeah. And
it's a great butt.
He's 94. I was like, man, he still looks young. I mean, you know, like at some point in 15 years or whatever, he gets like weird bodybuilder age, you know?
Yeah, he gets like just it all becomes one at one point.
Yeah, right? Very veiny and sweaty, and his face is all buffed up. Which is
I like Fat Stallone. Fat Stallone's my favorite Copland Stallone.
Yeah. Well, I was also thinking about like this is still like the Stallone v Schwarzenegger era, right? But I'm like, Arnold's winning at this point.
Oh yeah. This is during the time when Arnold fakes getting in the movie Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, so that Sylvester Stallone ends up doing it, and it ends up being a stinker because and Schwarzenegger knew it the whole time. Like, that's a funny gig, or that's a funny
debate your rival into a shitty movie. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
With Estelle Getty. What a winner.
And then he's just at home. I wish he could do an Arnold accent and laughing. He's like, look at this loser hanging out with this old lady.
Yeah, so Schwarzenegger's definitely winning at this point. And I mean, now we're getting to Schwarzenegger comedy. He's doing well.
So he has a whole extended era in the comedy world, and he's still got stuff like End of Days coming, right? And
so we've got 2 this year that we're going to be talking about. we're going to be, I think not this week, but next week, we're going to be talking about True Lies, the James Cameron movie.
Oh, that's right. That's a huge hit, and that's this year.
Yeah. And then we've got
that's
Junior.
RoboCop in terms of like, like who's the biggest movie star for sure, right?
Oh yeah. But then Junior, we get that we're doing. So he's flexing his comedy chops some more. I will credit Schwarzenegger. He knew exactly what he could do.
Yeah.
I can do action. I can do comedy. And that's it. Like
I think, yeah, I agree. I think I like Stallone better because I don't think Schwarzenegger could ever make Rocky. I just don't think he has it in him. But you're right. He knew exactly what he could do, and I think Stallone maybe didn't do everything he could. I think he could have been a better actor, and he could have gotten back to directing and writing and been in some pretty cool movies, but kind of got seduced into being a movie star a little bit. So Stallone definitely loses the war between them, but I still kind of like him a little better.
Oh, I think I like Stallone a lot better because I love Rocky. Rocky's great. The first Rocky's great. And Rocky Balboa, when he brings the series back, Rocky Balboa is so good.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times. Rocky Balboa is like one of 3 movies that'll make me cry 5 times, no matter how many times I see it. Honestly, and I couldn't see Schwarzenegger. It'd be fascinating to see him try, but I couldn't see him coming back as an older actor. Now he's very old. But he was doing politics and everything. But like, if he came back and tried to like bring some feels to any role as an older Arnold, I don't think he could do it.
And I do think that Stallone playing Rocky over and over again is good. Rocky Balboa, I think, is one of his best performances as that character.
Mm-hmm.
He's great in the Creed movies. But it's kind of a rehash of stuff that we've already. It's just Mick all over again.
The Rambo remakes every few years haven't really hit. I'm sure they're not bad. I'm sure he does fine, but they're like hit.
Yeah, and Rambo's a great example of what happened to Stallone because like Rambo is this movie about war vets and coming back from Vietnam.
It really is a Stallone story, yeah.
And then Rambo 2 is like, let's put him in action. Let's just amp it up.
Yeah.
And
Stallone in First Blood and Stallone in Rocky, just those 2 performances alone will be far above like Arnold's best performance,
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not to beat up on Arnold. Everybody loves him. I love him.
No,
I'm coming. We're all coming.
Cliffhanger was great last year. What a surprise!
Oh yeah, I missed the rewatch.
I do. Demolition Man, Cliffhanger from last year.
Cliffhanger was a huge hit too. People love that.
Yes, it was. It was, and it's got still one of the best stunt sequences like known to man, where they're actually like transfer people plane to plane.
Oh yeah.
Which is just insane to me. But yeah, my favorite Stallones go along with like I always bring up Copland. I love Copland a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody should rewatch Copland. He's great. There's a lot of randos in that movie too, and Ray Liotta's in that movie.
When is Last Action Hero? God, it's Schwarzenegger.
That was last year.
Yeah, I love that movie as a kid, and he has a few like serious acting moments in there. He's like yelling at the kid about what's real and what's not, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, that is really good.
He has a few dramatic moments that he does pretty good at. But The Specialist. Here's the thing: the movie it goes on this kind of like hypnotic loop. Especially the first half of the movie. There's a bunch of explosives, but it's like they're working their way up the org chart, right? So like nothing really matters. It's just them working their way up. And then it has like a big loud explosive, and then it has this really thoughtful, somber musical like motif, where it feels like I'm supposed to like be like, oh my God, I'm trapped in this cycle. I'm on this I'm on this track, this fate to some inevitable destruction. Like everything's horrible. I'm like, but the movie doesn't have that. So it also like really makes the movie feel longer when it should just be a thrill ride, a sexy thrill ride.
Yeah. I wanted to point out the bomb making skills that both him and James Woods have, where they just have parts laying around, and it is very MacGyver. They're just like, oh, here's a thing, and you just put it in here. You got a bomb, and here's.
Oh, towards the end, after like they come up the hotel after him and Sharon Stone fuck, and she gives him like 30 seconds warning, and he's already gotten dressed in a full suit and turned the telephone into a bomb. And he's gone. And then later on at the end, it's like they run into a door and they come back. He's like, I put 9 bombs everywhere. It's like the Joker. Like,
the pressure plate bomb at the end is great. Like, I'll walk you through the pressure plates. And then James Wood just walks in. And he's like, hey, guys, I'm here. I put a bomb in her cigarette case and you didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like this weird thing.
It's like comedically, like there's a million bombs being made off screen and they're just revealed later.
The
Uh,
Specialist is wild, but we can thank The Specialist for a Gloria Estefan hit
yeah, that
because
came out for this movie, right? It turned the beat
yes.
around. Yeah. Again, I think my girlfriend went to the bathroom and she came back out and she goes, "Is that turn the beat around?" And I was like, "Yeah." Let me explain the last 30 seconds of this movie. She just fucking domes this dude and then comes back around. He's like, "You feel better? And how do you feel?" And she goes, "Better." And then just goes, "Turn the beat up."
Around. So, thanks for this movie. I
There's
think
there's a good listicle to be made. I'm sure it's already been made of like amazing legendary songs that were attached to forgettable shitty movies. Right? There's so many of those.
that is also a thing of these because I think when we talked last year when we did the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, like the only song in the entire movie is in the end credits. I think that is like Speed. We just watched Speed. The only song is like Billy Idol's Speed. And then you get all like the Bryan Adams things for
Yeah.
Robin Hood or Three
Yeah, right.
Musketeers. So it is like, hey, we're making it's it's the James Bond effect, I'd say. Like, okay,
Yeah,
we're
it
gonna make
probably is that.
one pop song for this movie, and this is how we get an Oscar. Or
Even if it
whatever.
doesn't make sense, because the Robin Hood Bryan Adams thing is like not a collaboration that makes any sense.
Mm-mm.
Like I don't know why. Yeah, who would ever attach that song to that movie?
It's a dope music video, though. I
And
love
Turn the
it.
Beat Around doesn't make sense for this movie. It is in Miami.
It is set in Miami.
They keep showing that it's Miami. They don't really bring Miami in a lot to it, except that there's palm trees. And everybody's got a little convertible, a little fast go-kart
And
convertible.
everybody's Cuban,
Yeah.
or some variation of
Oh,
Cuban.
did you look up that actor who had the thickest accent in the world? I was like, I don't know if this is hyper accurate or hyper offensive, but I love listening to
The
this
old
guy.
man?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not sure about his how accurate he was. Or
I mean, it's cartoonish. It's cartoonish.
Rod Steiger is that guy's name. That guy
yeah,
was
it's
born
Rod
in New
Steiger.
York. Yeah.
Oh, legendary actor.
Yeah, he's a vaudeville star.
Yeah, totally. So
He's
it's a
German
fake. It's a fake
Austrian.
over the top accent, but man, I loved listening to it.
Eric Roberts didn't even commit to one. He's like, "Yeah, that's my dad. I'm Eric Roberts.
My name's Eric.
I'm Eric. Yeah, Rod Steiger of that's kind of crazy that that's Rod Steiger.
Yeah, he was in so much. What was that amazing movie he started
in the heat of the night?
Oh, he was in Heat of the Night. Yeah, I wasn't even
Yeah.
thinking of that. There's man, when he's like the Jewish pawn shop owner.
On the waterfront.
Oh,
The
man,
pawnbroker.
on the waterfront's amazing.
The pawnbroker is probably what you're talking about.
The pawnbroker, yeah, the Sidney
Yeah.
Lumet film. Ah, man, that movie's awesome. Yeah, I didn't look him up, so I didn't realize that was him in 1994. But yeah, On the Waterfront and Heat of the Night, the pawnbroker. That's legendary stuff.
The scene where he does, build the bomb into the telephone and gets dressed and all that stuff, like that looks so bad. The way that it's staged, and like it should be a cool thing where it falls off the cliff and everything. And
Oh, we were laughing out loud. That looked like 80s movies. That looked like Airport or something.
It looked really, really bad. And like the room that it is that has fallen is falling onto the guy that was already blown out the window from the phone. That's another thing about these bombs. They don't kill anybody.
No.
There are several times where it just launches them away and they're alive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in the final set piece and everything with the bombs, like sometimes like Stallone's just blowing up parts of the building that just to make people know that there's bombs around. Like there's no strategic reason. There's like that whole walkway that connects two buildings and they explode that. And I was like, nobody was near that. And that's just an escape route you don't have anymore. Like
how did he blow up the bomb defusal unit too? Like that.
Oh yeah. It just said really big bomb defusal. And then he was like, and the other guy's like, classic move. Good. Game recognized game. If you're gonna be a explosive boy, you got to get rid of the bomb defusal unit.
I hope that How Did This Get Made did this movie because I've got to go back and listen.
Oh, they would love that. Yeah, I should look that up.
This movie was very special. I'm glad it is the one that you were like, you have to watch this movie. And then I watched Low Down Dirty Shame after, but
right, because at least this Specialist is like fun. If you just like, I want to watch some dumb '90s action film or whatever. Like, there's funny moments. There's cool explosions. There's good sex. There's a Stallone butt.
Stallone butt.
Yeah,
and it's based on books.
Oh, so I love books.
You love books.
I should read the books.
I think it's funny though. The first time he's talking to Sharon Stone, he says, "If you betray me, I'll kill you." And then she betrays him like 3 times in the movie. She doesn't kill her once.
Not even once.
Not
Not
even
even at the
once.
end. He even runs off into the sunset with her.
A
There was that
Splurgy
thing where she
woman.
leaves the note, and then she's like, "Remember the last thing I told you?" It was like a cute little moment. It was like, you can believe it. Where like the note says like, "Hey, you should have never trusted me. Never trust me. I'm a bad person or something. I'm a liar." And then
Yeah.
and then when she's forced to make a phone call to him to give him false information, she's like, "Hey, that last thing I told you was real," you know, and that tips him off that everything she's saying is like being fed. Also, the classic trope that happens a few times of like, it takes 60 seconds to trace anybody on a phone. And a real good CIA guy who explodes a lot of things, he's going to know exactly when 58 seconds is up, and he's going to hang up.
How long did we have him on the phone? 58 seconds. It's not long enough. We got a partial.
We got a partial.
We got a partial.
I got a partial in this movie. It took me 58 seconds to get a partial. All right.
I hate that we were talking about that. Now we got Blank Man.
Oh yeah, fuck! I forgot about Blank Man.
Blank Man.
I mean,
Which
this
is-
movie, I remember it being in the culture. You know, like people talk about Blank Man like with fond memories, but it's pretty nothingish.
Yeah, it is a lot of nothingness. And I remember seeing this on the rental shelves a lot, and me wanting to I remember the cover of this movie very, very well. And
Yeah.
I do think though I would have loved this movie as a child.
That makes
this
sense,
is this is very kid coded to me.
Well,
Kid
yeah, it's
comedy. This
also,
is a
like-
good like sleepover movie, I think.
Right, and so I mean, well, I guess Batman was like 5 years ago, but like the silly gadgets, like the plunger kind of stuff, like
Mhm.
you know, leaning into that was big in the '90s and a lot of kid stuff. And
Poor
it's, I mean,
Dag.
it was cool to see that. It was also with a black cast, right? So like it was
Mhm.
that kind of stuff with different people on screen, 4 different people. We get Dag again, who kind of carries a lot of it. Damon Wayans is trying really hard. Like I don't know. Growing up, I never loved Damon Wayans' comedy very much, but I do agree that he fucking goes for he swings for the fence every time.
He is in this case, I think he's the better of the two brothers, the Keenan and him. And then I think the other one, I can't remember their other brother's name. But then it's like Keenan's kids, or not Keenan's kids, Keenan's kids are the ones that make the Scary Movie franchise.
And that's
And do
Marlon
all
and
that.
who? Sean?
Sean, yeah.
All right. And now there's a newer Wayans too, right?
Damon Wayans Jr.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was like a New Girl and Happy
that's right, that
Endings.
guy,
And he's
yeah,
been in a lot of
he's good.
stuff like that. So, and now who knows where
I mean,
his
the Wayans were always around growing up, and so it was definitely like a staple. And as much as like I think like those Scary Movie franchise things were things that I, even when they were coming out, I thought I was above, but then I'd watch them and there would just be randomly smart shit in the middle of the dumbest shit in the world. Like there'd be like really funny, thoughtful comedy or just beautifully executed stuff. So like Scary Movie's great.
Yeah. Those are fun movies to go back and watch now. I agree. Like Scary Movie 2 was one of those movies that I did not care for. Because it was tackling like haunted house movies and I didn't really like it, the subject matter of it, but that's the one that everybody quotes. But I've went back now. It's way funnier.
Yeah.
Than I thought then. But,
Yeah. I think I underappreciated those. I mean, I'm not going to overpraise them now either. They're dumb as fuck.
oh yeah. And
That's the whole point. I guess I respect that in retrospect. I was like, yeah, if you're going to make like the silliest movie in the world, just pack it chock full of silliness. Like make every choice every time. Just go like 11 out of 10 for every joke every second.
and we
and I
really
feel like-
haven't had any parody type movies like that, like like an Airplane, or that kind of franchise. We haven't Naked Gun during this time.
Yeah,
In
we
the
haven't had that in
90s.
a while. I mean, I think the latest ones, I guess, like the extended Apatow universe was kind of doing that when they just wanted to get the gang back together, and so they were like, let's make it a Pineapple Express as an action movie. Let's make a spy movie. with
Yeah.
Interview. Let's like genre things, 21 Jump Street reboot stuff. But let's just put this crew in here and make them like comedies now. That was the closest to parodies I think we've had in a while.
Yeah, we just don't have that anymore. I mean, and I think probably like Family Guy dude, Seth MacFarlane, tried to do that with his 1001 ways to, or
Yeah,
to die, or Million Ways to Die. And people.
Yeah,
just
I don't
didn't
know.
like
Do you
it.
think we can't do that anymore? I don't think anybody's really trying. I'm trying to think of what full comedy movies have been hits in the past few years.
You just can't do comedy in this day and age.
I know, like I hate that. I would argue with that argument. Like when people say that shit, I just know they're about to say something cringe. But it does feel like it's not the genre for the time, or the best you can do is like satire, like a Don't Look Up kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed a lot. But yeah, just going like full silly comedy hasn't had a big hit in a while.
No, not at all. We just need another Kentucky Fried Movie. You ever watch Kentucky Fried Movie?
Yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad.
Well, you know what I'll say? There are stuff like that like kind of go straight to Netflix and hit their like, remember when the like Workaholics dudes did that movie 2-3 years ago? Like,
oh yeah,
like people like that. That's a full-on comedy, but it was kind of went straight to Netflix, and the people who want that, like kind of the bros who want that comedy, went and found it, and it's just not like released full in the movies.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. Those probably aren't the most like blockbuster. I gotta go see that in theaters thing because we're already spending way less money than any action movie that you're about to see. So
right, it's theaters now, they only have time for like the extraordinarily big budget things. Like it's hard to get like a $40 million movie in the theaters to make 80 mil.
I want to see somebody do a parody of Greta Gerwig movies.
That'd be kind of hilarious,
right? Yeah. That's good.
I mean, and honestly, I think like Greta Gerwig should do it. Like,
yes, I think so too. I think that'd be great.
Her boyfriend too. They can make fun of each other. They can like write each other's parodies. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, call us. We're here.
I guess Barbie's kind of a comedy movie. I mean, it's very unique in what it was, but it was a big hit. Yeah.
So,
Blank Man.
We know what the next thing is. Blank Man. Because there's not really anything to say about it. I think Jason Alexander's randomly in this movie with an odd bald head.
Yeah. I like Jason Alexander. He's never great, but he's always fun when he's on screen.
Yeah, I always he was always my favorite character on the few Seinfeld that I watched. He was also very musical too.
Yeah, he's a stage guy for sure.
Yeah, I remember growing up and watching him in the Bye Bye or Wonderful World of Disney did a Bye Bye Birdie remake, and he was the ad guy in that movie, and I fucking love Jason Alexander.
They did a Bye Bye Birdie remake. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Well, and it's already been mentioned. I know someone in your life loves this, but I always remember him as the advisor, the court advisor, and Roger and Hammerstein's Cinderella made for TV.
You just made her day, I'm sure. But I did forget that he was in that as well. So,
but him is it's so funny because he was like I watched him act as the conspiratorial dude in the wheelchair. I don't know I guess he's like Vietnam vet coded. I don't know if they ever say that.
So is he like Oliver Stone? Like, is he supposed to be like a
kind of like
that parody of Oliver Stone?
And Lieutenant Dan all together.
Yeah. Or what is the guy from Born on the 4th of July?
Oh, true. Yeah. There was a lot of Vietnam vets in wheelchairs, who were kind of scruffy like that. But he would act real. I was watching him, especially in the first part of the movie. He would act really hard in that voice and throw his hands everywhere. And then when it wasn't his line, he would just have a blank face. And then it would be his line again. He'd be like, "Whoa!" And then he'd just have a blank face, staring at like a dag, waiting for his turn again. It was pretty silly.
I thought this movie started off crazy with the grandma getting killed. I did not expect that.
It felt dark. Yeah,
it felt very dark. And then they killed off the mayor at some point too. In this, Beto O'Rourke mayor.
That's right. He was like a great white hope or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, but they just leave him there, strapped to the bank safe to die.
Yeah.
They needed the specialist.
And then when they were trying to come up with the name, I was like, oh, why is he called Blank Man? And then there's that scene where Dag is just like, oh, he's drawing a blank, ma'am. And then she goes, oh, you're Blank Man. Cool movie title. Let's go.
Thanks, Blank Man. And then Dag's character's name is Other Guy.
I think that's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Blank Man and Other Guy. What a classic movie this was. So if you had to rank them, of these 5, what's your ranking?
In the Army Now, The Specialist, Blank Man, Low Down Dirty Shame. God, I
think I put a Low Down. I think I gave Blank Man a better rating, but I think I like Low Down Dirty Shame better than Blank Man.
Yeah, I guess Blank Man wasn't as boring. There's like I don't know. There's like the access of like something interesting when I'm just like watching a movie with a somewhat critical or nerdy meta eye. Like I'm just like meta enjoying a movie. That a Low Down Dirty Shame has more to enjoy than like I Like Trouble because
Yeah.
that's such a formulaic thing. Yeah, so you know what? I'll put a Low Down Dirty Shame third, and then Blank Man, then I Love Trouble.
Yeah. It's funny that the funniest movie on here is an Wayans Brothers movie. It's the special.
It's a Pauly Shore movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the Pauly Shore movie.
Yeah. Yeah, again, as I started off the pod, I was like, man, what a fun movie challenge. Name 4 movies that are worse than In the Army Now. And we found them.
We did find them. I think I agree with you on your rankings. I did not have a chance to watch I Love Trouble. I don't know if I will.
Yeah.
But it was good.
Again, just like Specialist 2, like if somebody wanted that, like, I don't know, like if you're just like, people just like to rent movies that are like kind of like nostalgic and dumb. And, you know, some people like, you know, if they're millennials, they might growing up in the 90s. They like watching old 90s movies.
That's what this felt
like. Trouble or I Love Trouble is a fine watch, but it's kind of nothing.
That's what these movies felt like. They were like oh gosh, we can't rent Speed this week because it's out at Blockbuster.
Yeah,
I'm gonna grab The Specialist. So,
or fine, I'll watch Speed, but I want this one. Oh, Julia Roberts is in this. So like,
yeah, that's what these felt like. Very much like, oh, grab that for mom, grab that for
Yeah,
kids,
and it wasn't like the '90s wasn't trying to make great movies. It just was also more acceptable to make mid movies, and it was more acceptable in culture to be mid. Like it was just sometimes a movie's just fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
This is a very mid year.
Yeah. Well, the year, I don't know. Yeah.
We're going to get there. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but like
at the end of the year, promise me you'll go back because you have your 93 list and you don't have to rank every single one, but like put the top 10 versus the top 10, right? And then see if you like 94 better than 93.
I think there were a lot of movies in 93 that I hadn't watched or hadn't heard of. And then I was like, oh shit, that was really good. Like Philadelphia. I'd never seen Philadelphia. Or Remains of the Day. Like I had never seen those movies before. And those things like blew me away. And I haven't gotten that yet. And yes, I've seen a lot of these movies, but I'm still waiting to hopefully be blown away by something left on our list. And I think there are a couple.
I'm trying to think. I don't think there's been any surprises really. I missed a few. I mean, again, like you'd seen Hoop Dreams before and you'd seen Quiz Show before.
Yes, I had seen Quiz Show before.
Yeah. So this could be surprises for people, I think, but for you and me, maybe not. Yeah.
There's some good stuff left on the list, but a lot of it I have seen before. But we'll see. But that's it, man. We did it. We did an hour on this, and I think this is the best that this bonus one's ever gone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I had already kind of made a little bit of an outline for this one, and I was like, okay, here's some fun things I can add in, the Chat GPT shit, and then like going one by one through them.
Well, good. This is the first time in a while I watched all 5, but again, like I think I told you, I was like, I didn't pay attention to all 5. I have things to say. I'm sure I'll come up with bullshit. I always do, but I didn't have any notes or outlines or anything.
Well, let's do it again next month.
Yeah, I'm in. Wait,
what'd you say?
Oh yeah, next month is sports.
No, next month is They Tried.
Oh, it's only 3 movies too.
I am going to add one movie to this list, though.
Okay.
So this is going to be The War, starring Elijah Wood, Kevin Costner, with honors, which I think is Joe Pesci and Brendan Fraser. Bad Girls, which is a female or a women Western, starring, I think Drew Barrymore's in here. I don't know who else is in here. And then I'm adding Nell. If you haven't seen Nell, we're going to have a great time talking about Nell.
Here's the thing. Even if like those movies end up not being great or whatever, like the category is like the next month is like the big directors, attempts. And then these are kind of like big Oscar baity or great directors who are like trying things and that maybe didn't work so well. But there'll be a lot to say about that. There'll be less of like, this was just a Sylvester Stallone explosive movie. Like,
yeah, I'll be glad to get out of action for a little bit. Although I am looking forward to True Lies.
True Lies will be good. I don't know if I'm interested. I'm going to watch The River Wild because I don't think I've ever seen it. I have a feeling I won't like it, but it was very popular.
I'm telling you, this is one of the hot, like, the hottest I've ever seen Meryl Streep, and I don't know what it is.
I think it's like my girl was in there. My girl Meryl.
Yeah, Meryl, David Strathairn, and Kevin Bacon, John C. Reilly, and Joseph Mazzello, the kid from Jurassic Park.
Okay. Maybe it was the premise that always turned me off or whatever, but I think I was talking to somebody else recently about The River Wild, and they're like, "Oh, that's a great movie." And I was like, "All right, man, I'll check it out."
I mean, it was done by Curtis Hanson, who did L.A. Confidential, so it's not like and it's outdoorsy. You get a lot of cool like nature stuff in there too. Check it out, and come back this Sunday as we talk about it. So, you watched anything else besides these 5 movies?
I watched so much. I every few months, 6 months or so, I go through like I don't know, just a blah phase, and I just like let me watch a bunch of shitty movies I've never got around to seeing. So I finally watched Hobbit 2 and 3. They suck. I finally watched.
I haven't seen 3 yet.
Yeah, I watched Fantastic Beasts 2 and 3. They suck. I watched Birds of Prey. They suck. It sucked. And then I watched. I also I've been having insomnia for like a week or two, so I've just been watching movies all night. But I had never seen Mad Max Fury Road, and it was great.
Yep.
And I had never seen Joker, and it was all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. But did you know that I didn't know this. I just happened to watch it now that in October there's going to be a sequel to Joker, and it's going to be a musical, and Lady Gaga is going to be Harley Quinn.
So
all of that's fascinating. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we'll see. I watched a movie. Maybe you've seen it. Body Double.
I've heard of it.
Brian De Palma.
Oh, I watched a bunch of De Palma movies in a row that all kind of blend together.
This Body Double is like, okay, everything that all you critics hate about me, I'm going to shove it into this movie, and I'm going to make it super obvious, and here's all my Hitchcock references, and here's everything that you hate about me and love about me, and here's my finger. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, that is how Brian De Palma makes movies.
And the plot
argument that only he's part of, you know.
And the plot is bizarre. Melanie Griffith shows up. I was surprised by how much I really love that movie.
I don't remember which De Palma movies I watched in like a flurry and which ones were which, but I do remember as like bad as they are, they're also awesome.
Yeah, he's great. It makes me want to go back and watch all those. I also watched an Almodovar short film, his English short film with Pedro Pascal and Ethan Hawke. It's called Strange Way of Life. It's on Netflix. It's only 30 minutes, but it's a gay cowboy movie on Netflix. So
he has a new one this year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I haven't caught up with you know how much I love Almodovar, and I haven't caught up with him in a few years. I feel like he's had some duds that people were kind of meh about, but I bet I'd still like him. But I think the one this year got more positive praise than he's had in a while.
I haven't seen Pain and Glory yet. I think that was the last one his last big one that he did, which is kind of an autobiographical thing about himself, starring Antonio Banderas. But no, I'd look for it. I love Almodovar. I recommend All About My Mother every time somebody's like, hey, you have any movies to recommend? I'm always like, that's number one.
And I'll keep being annoying about it because he gets a lot of praise and he's had a lot of success, but I don't think he's in as many conversations about like great living working directors as he should be.
Yeah. No, he's incredible. Definitely when I was going through my 1001 list, like every time I'd come to an Almodovar film, I was like, yes, this is it. Love him. He's awesome. Madam Web is a piece of shit, though.
Oh, yeah. You showed that. What is Madam Web? That's like is that a Spideyverse thing?
It's a Spider-Man thing. She's a lady that like connects all of the Spider events, and Dakota Johnson is the lady. And she's friends with Uncle Ben. And then there's like these 3 girls that turn into Spider Women at some point that she's got to save. And they're all bad actors with big tits. And it's just crazy.
Interesting, man. Superheroes.
Who knew?
Yeah, there's so much content. I actually just read a month ago, read all of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol and really enjoyed it. And I was like, I'm finally going to go watch that TV show they made. And I was like, they made 4 seasons? I'm not watching this shit.
Brendan Fraser's in that.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, and I heard it like from Doom Patrol fans. I was like, they calm the absurdity down, but it's still pretty good. And I was like, yeah, I can't wait. And then I was like, that's like 40 hours of content. I'm not doing it.
That's too much, man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna watch my Superstore reruns.
I'm just gonna watch 40 more hours of chess and Risk on YouTube. Is what I'm gonna do.
I think that's great. That's great. Did you like the links I sent you, or have you had a chance to check those out?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Perfect. We can talk about it later.
Okay.
Anyway, that's a long way of saying goodbye to all of you here on the stream. Thank you for joining us for Trash Action Heroes here. And join us next month when we do They Tried. And watch all those movies. If you want more information, check out our Discord and drop us a follow here on Twitch. We'll see you next week, this Sunday for The River Wild.